All right, gang, we are recording, so we are going live now. I just want to make sure we're all set up and ready for that. We will probably continue to have some people joining us, but I don't want to hold back from this presentation. So I'm going to introduce our guest. And again, I'm just so excited to hear from each of them. We have Lee Griffin, who is the Executive Director of Academics and Literacy for East Baton Rouge Parish Schools. We have Amy Clancy, the Director of Early Childhood for Children's Coalition for Northeast Louisiana. And Carmen, Carmen, I'm going to probably butcher your name.
Brabham.
Brabham, thank you. I was going there, Brabham, the Early Childhood Coordinator for Tangipahoa Parish. And I actually know that parish very well. I ran a Head Start program there several years ago. So I'm excited to hear from each of you. We're going to start with Lee, and I'm just going to ask a question, and you guys are going to be telling us a little bit about what you've been doing, and then we'll start with questions. So I just want each of you to sort of tell us briefly, about the work in your respective community, starting with Lee. We'll just go in that order, and then we'll probably come back the other way with the next question. So we'll let Lee start, and then Amy, then Carmen.
Hi, thank you so much. I am super excited to be on. I'm always happy to talk to Lizzie. Lizzie and I have a special relationship. I always bother her with emails. She always answers, so I appreciate it. And so, of course, anything her and Nasha, of course, asked, I'm going to do it. And I was excited to talk about it because I'll tell you, when they announced that we were having networks, it was like, oh, okay, well, what do we have to do? And they were like, here's a binder of strategies and go team. And we were like, oh, well, okay, wonderful. So in Baton Rouge, where we have a partnership with Baton Rouge, which is the capital city, and the city of Baker, which is a partner. We have a very large group. We started off, however, in 2014 as a pilot with only 39 child care centers. So I really enjoyed starting off as a pilot with 39 child care centers, and being able to really make those connections and build relationships and just let everyone know that we were here not to take over as a school system, but to really partner with our early childhood providers who are all autonomous business owners. And so it behooves us, obviously, to make sure that they know that we are a partner to them and that the work that we are doing together will help to raise the standards in our community for early childhood care and education, and that we want to know they are the experts in that field. We really value their opinion, and just working together and understanding that we are all here on the same mission. And I realize that obviously some are owners of businesses, and so their bottom line could be affected the way that we move forward. So we always appreciate that. And we have advisory boards and councils, and we really just make sure it's a community affair. I've been doing this since 2014, as I said, as a pilot year. We piloted, I think in 2015, 2016, it was a practice year. And then we went ahead in 16, 17, and we've been going ever since. So I'm super excited. I started off as a project manager and then became director, executive director. So I've been living and breathing this work. I have seen our community grow academically in our ratings, which I know you guys aren't doing just yet, but we've seen the growth in ratings. We've seen the growth in students. And ultimately, our goal is to make sure that everyone is kindergarten ready. And we know in EBR, we always say pre-K is prevention. So the more investment we make at this age in building that foundation, the less money we have to spend in third and fourth grade catching them up. And so we really, really impressed that upon our community. And we are so excited that we were taken in. So we started with 39, and we have now 116 early childhood centers in EBR network, plus charter schools, private schools that accept public funding. So we're all almost at about 180 partners in our network. And we serve over 6,000 kids and 700 lead teachers and about 700 assistant teachers. So yeah, we're big, but we are mighty.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lee. We're going to let Amy talk a little bit about the work that she's doing. I think it could mirror some of our communities in Arkansas. It's a little bit more rural. But if you would like to talk, Amy, about what your work has looked like.
Yeah, so thanks for having us today. I'm really excited to share with you guys about Our area, up in Northeast Louisiana, we have one parish that's more populous, and the rest of our five, so we serve 5 parishes total. One being more populous, a little bit more urban, where the rest of our other 4 parishes are quite rural. So it's a little bit different than having a bunch all in one parish. So the parishes that we have, so we, of course, we serve as the lead agency for early childhood. We also serve as the child care resource and referral agency for those very same parishes, or counties is what you guys are used to calling them, in Northeast Louisiana. So those parishes are Washita and Monroe City, which is more populous. We have about 80 child care centers in that area. And then with that we also have family child care as well, quite a bit of it. We also, in East Carroll Parish, which is our least populated parish, is very rural, and we only have one child care center in that parish. And then we have 7 family child care homes in that area. And it's a good option for the families in that area, because they're spread out across the parish. So it allows a good child care solution in a rural community. And then we also have 2 other parishes, Richland Parish and Morehouse Parish, that are actually very similar makeup. So they're both kind of more medium-sized but rural. We have about 17 child care centers, and then a handful of family child care in each of those parishes. So it's a rural area again, and family child care does play a key role in rural parishes for us. And then we just recently brought on a new parish that had been from the school system, and wanted us to take on that role as the lead agency. And so we did that actually in January, mid-year, last year. And again, that's a more medium-sized, slightly rural parish as well, with about 30 childcare centers. And so that's a little bit about what we've been doing. I have been in this work since the very beginning of our community network pilots in Louisiana, which I think we actually first started piloting kind of in getting ready for the pilot in 2013, 2014. So we've been doing this for quite a while at the Children's Coalition.
All right. And last but certainly not least, Carmen, tell us a little bit about your work in your community.
Hi, I'm excited to be here as well. We started with Lizzie and Nasha, and so we were happy to, I'm like Lee, with whatever they say, absolutely. So I'm Carmen, and I am in Tangipahoa Parish, and our parish is unique because it is long. So we have the northern end of the parish is rural, whereas the southern end of the parish is more populated. We have I-12 and I-55 that run right through us. So you can go to Florida, Texas, or Chicago, either New Orleans. So we're in a unique situation. When we started our network plans, there were only 12 centers that agreed to be in our network. So which was great, but we're up to 39 now, and 2 family child cares. So those are in-home providers that have come into our network. So what it has allowed us to do is, like Lee said, build those relationships. And the really key of it is getting to know our directors, because bottom line, it is a privately owned business. And so that is their livelihood. So we want to partner with them to make sure that we are improving instructional practices, because our vision is also getting our vision, we have all of those, vision, mission, but bottom line is getting kids ready for kindergarten. That's our whole purpose, is that we join together and are partners in education. We're actually sponsoring our very first early childhood education conference next Friday, and our superintendent is going to speak first, and that's her message to our childcare directors and teachers is that we're partners in education, because it's only going to strengthen your community when you're on the same page and can share some of the resources, some of the strategies that we as the school system have, and we can help to coach and build capacity in those childcare settings to where we're getting our children where they need to be for kindergarten.
Thank you all so much. I'm going to ask you all just to quickly go. I'm going to go back through starting with Carmen. Can you tell approximately how many children are in the area that you're working in, or that you all are directly working with?
In our network, we have around 1,300. Now, of course, there are childcare centers that are not in our network. You know, we're always recruiting that, but birth to 5, it's about 1,300 that we're working with. We have 241 classrooms, so that many teachers as well. So we have 8 Head Start that we're not the grantee for Head Start, but we partner with them as well. We have some of their we have some partnerships with Head Start that we have Head Start classes in public schools, and we have some where our public school classrooms are in the Head Start. And we also partner because our schools are full, especially in our highly populated area. Like I said, our parish is vastly different depending north and south. In the north end, we have lots of room in our schools. In the south end, we have no room. So we partner actually with some of our childcare providers to put public pre-K within the childcare setting. We rent their space. So we have public teachers and curriculum and all those assets within the childcare setting too.
Thanks, Carmen. Amy, number of children for you all? You're on mute, Amy. Sorry.
Whoops, sorry about that. So as far as children, off the top of my head, I don't have that number in my head. But we do have I think it's about 497 classrooms is what we have right now across those 5 parishes that we serve.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Dr. Griffin?
Yeah, we have over 6,000 children that we are currently serving. And we kind of have the same thing that Carmen has, which is we have some partnerships with childcare centers. So she's talking about the northern and southern end of her parish. It's the northern and southern end of our city that is kind of the same makeup. So in North Baton Rouge, we have a lot of space. In South Baton Rouge, we don't have a lot of space at all. So we actually do a reverse partnership, which we have a lot of classrooms, and we offer them to type 3 childcare providers, which are childcare providers that accept public funding. And they come in and they use our classroom space free of charge. That's how our system partners with them. They don't have to pay electric bill, water bill, anything. Our purpose of putting them in there is the classroom is open anyway, and we would love to serve children under 4. Our school system starts at 4 years old. So those child care providers come in and they open those classrooms and they serve all the way down to infants in our schools. So that's been a great partnership, but we have over 6,000 kids that we serve in our network.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Amy, just want to talk to you a little bit because of the unique nature of yours in the rural aspect. Can you talk a little bit about the approach, knowing you have those unique needs within each of those respective areas and the different communities that you're serving? Can you share a little bit about how you tackle that?
Yeah. So we really we approach each of our parishes a little differently. And although we do kind of coordinate some meetings that are kind of regional where everyone all comes together. Primarily, we actually work with each parish individually because we really know that each parish has a very different needs in their community, and they're all just a little bit different. So we work with them in different ways. We also like to push out information to families more at a regional level rather than like when we do enrollment events, we want everybody to kind of use the same dates because for marketing purposes, that's a lot more convenient and it's less confusing to the families in the region to know like when do I go sign up for pre-K. So we try to coordinate that together and everybody does really good at, coordinating and working together across the multiple parishes that way. We also, as I said, we have provider meetings and stakeholder meetings that are more at the county or parish level. Because we really think it's very important to be on the ground. Since we're serving 5 parishes, we really want to be on the ground in each of those communities. We do have a person assigned kind of as the point person for each parish to kind of keep that communication flow really consistent. And every one of the parishes has their own strategic plan of how, what goals they want to accomplish, and we involve them in, they're a part of our advisory committees. They help us with decision making. They participate in decision making and planning, so that each family, or not each family, but each parish's individual needs are, being reflected in the uniqueness of their community.
Thanks, Amy. I'm going to ask all of you, and I'll start with Dr. Griffin. How did you approach? I heard each of you talk about you started with a small number, but it sounds like it's really grown and expanded. But how did you start working with the early childhood providers? I think, Lee, you talked about, and Carmen, I think did too, like you're letting them use space, or you using their space, which I know is a huge benefit. But just talk from the beginning. I think folks who are interested in writing for this would want to know, like, how did you initially start that rollout of bringing people together and getting them interested in being a part of the partnership?
For sure, it was, I think bringing on a small amount at first was like key here, because I was able to go and I literally scheduled meetings with each child care provider. And I said, hey, I have, and it took about a month because it was 39 of them. And I can't go at nap time because I'm gonna wake the kids up, and I can't go at breakfast. I had to really like learn how to kind of maneuver in childcare world, even though I was a teacher, an elementary teacher. And I grew so much respect for them, for all of the policies and the practices that they have to follow that we want to follow too in the school system, right? But we know that it's very specific. So I just grew a lot of respect as I visited all 39 partners. So when I did that, I had some to say, hey, it was very important to us that you came, like that you didn't say, hey, I'm over this thing now, let's go. You came, you listened. We have a governing board, just similar to what Amy said and Carmen said. We have a governing board, and it's made up of a representative, a sampling of everyone. So if most of our network is actually childcare, so most of the people on our governing board are child care providers, because we wanted to make sure that it looked like the network. We only have 44 elementary schools, but we have 115 child care providers. We also have the public library. We have Knock Knock Museum. We brought in all of those partners who really play a huge part in education in our community to say, hey, look, we're all getting together and we need everyone's input. So we have our governing board. We had our network partner meetings. So we have monthly network partner meetings, and we talked to them. We said, hey, when do you want to have the meeting? When's the best day? We sent out surveys, need surveys. And they said, hey, Fridays at 12, because Fridays, most kids don't come and 12 p.m. is lunchtime, and I have coverage, so I can probably sneak out for a meeting. So we kind of really engaged them and took our time to let them know, again, you are a business owner. We are not trying to hurt that business, but as Amy and Carmen said, we're just trying to improve instruction across. And what we saw is that, hey, whether you are in a childcare or whether you are in a school, when we got to class, and I know y'all not doing class observations, but when we got to the class tool, hey, some of our childcare providers were scoring higher than our teachers in schools. So it matters not your level of education, it matters your level of commitment. And we wanted to really make sure they knew that we respected them. So we surveyed them again to know their needs. We had an open feedback loop. They always were able to contact me on my cell phone, on my email. I stopped by a lot. We actually invested in coaches to go out into the childcare. So the same amount of service that we were giving to our school teachers, we gave to our childcare providers. They love that. And then we wanted to make sure we branded it. So we actually created a network banner. It was called Making Important Links to Kindergarten Milk. And we spent a lot of funding on getting banners. So every time someone joined the network, they would get the banner. And so we had, we always call it the street talk. So they started talking to their friends. I'm like, hey, you got to get in this network and get this banner. And they will ask somebody, how'd you get that banner? Oh, I joined the network. What network? And so that made us grow. And they knew that we were just only trying to help. And so as the years went on and we got more and more people, it became, are you Lee? Okay, you're Lee. Okay, very good. You're the person I'm supposed to talk to. What's going on? And so that's kind of how we did it. But relationships is the biggest, relationships and respect, biggest thing.
Thank you, Dr. Griffin. Carmen?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ditto Lee, because it's getting out there and getting to know them and gaining their trust, because at first it's a little bit of, oh, they're going to tell us what to do, or, you know, this is my business, I'm going to run, and it is their business, but establishing the relationship that we are partners and we're here to help, we're here to support. We also have coaches that we dedicate to our childcare facilities, and we're really trying to raise them as raise the profession to be professionals, because we're trying to change the focus to where they call themselves teachers. You are a teacher. That's what we are trying to get through on our message this year. We call them teachers. We call them teacher one, teacher two, if there are two adults in the classroom. We're also having an early childhood education conference. So trying to build their capacity and understanding that what they do matters the most every single day, because most of the brain development happens before they even get to public school. So that's our message to them, to try to partner and provide assistance, provide guidance, you know, because like Lee said, there are so many restrictions that they have that we don't have in public schools. It's a totally different world that we have to learn as well. And we learn more every single day. So we want to be partners with them in education, so that they are respected. We have a website that we highlight them on, just trying to build community with them.
Amy?
Yeah, so kind of our approach of trying to bring kind of each of the unique communities that we serve together. When we were first starting, it was, you know, we were just getting off the ground with this community network lead agency work. People were hesitant to kind of jump in, because they did, as Lee and Carmen said, they felt like we were just giving them extra things that they had to do. But in reality, it ends up being this beautiful process where the community is all working together to ensure that all children in that community have access to high quality early education. And options and settings, and a lot of great parent choice. Not like you're just getting assigned to a seat, but there's parent choice in that as well, of course. So that's really important. And that's where having relationships in the community that you're serving, that's where it becomes a very, very key important factor. So what we did a lot was we did a lot of meetings, a lot of inviting folks in, and always seeking their feedback, you know, getting their input, not making decisions without them, you know, nothing about me without me, right? We need to make sure that we are, you know, being inclusive of everyone and letting everybody, you know, come to the table that needs to be there. And at first, you know, when it was a pilot, you know, not everybody came to the table, but here we are, you know, 9-10 years later, and they're showing up and they are invested and they are doing this work with us, and directing us and telling us what we need to do next, which is wonderful because they're part of that decision-making process. Let me see. One thing that we have done, particularly around family childcare and bringing them to the table, because we didn't start out with family childcare at the table, and I think that's maybe one of our Louisiana things we could have done better, because they are early childhood professionals as well, and caregivers as well, and teachers as well. So you know, how we've kind of gotten them to come to the table, because they did feel left out because they weren't included, was, you know, inviting them in for like seminars that are specific to family childcare, giving them goodies, and to incentivize them to show up for the meetings and such, so that, you know, you had to kind of earn some of that trust back after it was kind of lost because they felt like they were being left out of the loop. And so, you know, we also reached out to the CACFP, the food program providers. There are providers who were not necessarily falling under the Early Childhood Network because they were not a child care assistance certified provider, but they were a food program provider. And so we reached out to those folks, and we had a lot of those folks come over, and they didn't know they could do both programs at the same time. And that actually really helps them out financially, and gives wonderful benefits to the children and families. Yeah, I think that's what I've got for you. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Sure. Oh, that was fantastic. Thank you all. I'm going to start with Carmen and just kind of go back around. Talk a little bit about your work to engage families in those early days.
Okay, so that is always a challenge, reaching our parents, especially in the type of parish that we have. So we've been fortunate, you know, in the early days, we started with word of mouth. We started with flyers. We went to where those people, to where families gather, grocery stores. They go to doctor's offices, you know, places like that. We would bring our flyers to, and we have grown to now we have a website, we have social media. So we try to get information out there. We host a big event every year that we get families to come to, so where we can talk to them and give them the opportunities that we have in Tangipahoa Parish. So we do lots. Word of mouth is always the best. Like Lee said earlier, that's how we grow a network also. Where did you get that? How did you get that? Everybody wants to come on board when there's good things happening. So that's the same thing with our parents. Hey, how did you hear about that? Well, my child goes here and it's so great. So we try to get the word out that way, and we're just trying to really engage our parents. And then of course, COVID hit everybody and we had to take a step backward. So we're finally coming out of COVID again and having some of our family events. We want to have some at childcare settings so they can have open houses. So we do advertising for our childcare. And
I know, right?
I meant to
And
say
still
that.
get me on the Zoom.
I'm sorry.
If you could please, excuse me, if you could please mute your phone. We have some guest speakers and I just want to be attentive to
Yeah,
them.
it's okay. I did lose my train of thought though. Let me think of what I was saying.
Carmen, you were talking about coming out of COVID and having your family event starting back
Oh yeah,
up.
so now we're getting back to our family events to try to encourage that, and we have we now have programs where we can offer tuition assistance to 0 to 3 years old, and so we do that as well. So that's, you know, again, word of mouth. Everybody wants to have a good thing, and so that's what we're promoting with our child care centers as well. And what I was saying earlier was, you know, when we first started this, we had babysitting, then we had daycares, and then we were child cares. Well, now we're really trying to make the shift to they are early learning centers. Because they are after the parents, they're the next teacher, and what they do every day matters so much. So we're trying to bring awareness to the importance of early childhood education. So we even offer, we call them office hours, once a month with our early learning centers, to where we talk about brain development. We give them curriculum assistance tips. We provide curriculum for them, and then so we send our coaches out to help them on implementation. We provide trainings and all of those things. And all of that leads to better instruction, which helps to get more business because parents want their children in a quality setting. So again, that helps with the word of mouth to build your center.
Lee, how did you get your families engaged in your community?
Yeah, so I mean, much the same way. So I'm gonna ditto this time, Carmen. It was at first, it was pre-COVID. So we have the ability, because we had the huge malls. We had it was huge at the time. Cartana Mall is now closed. I'm sorry, but it was big at the time. It was a big mall, and everyone was always there, especially on Saturdays. So we would have what was called pre-K Palooza. And pre-K Paloozas was when all families knew, hey, in February, you go to the mall, they're going to have food, games, entertainment, and you get to sign your kid up for pre-K or early Head Start. We were already having that. So when the networks came, we called them early childhood extravaganzas, and childcare providers were able to join too. And so one of the things was families were already used to, hey, we have to get ready for pre-K in spring. So when we brought the network in and families started seeing childcare providers, the first one we learned, they would go and say, hey, that's such a nice provider. I'm gonna go straight over here to Head Start. I'm gonna go straight over here to the school. And then the next time we said, okay, we got you now. So we created a bingo card, and they had to talk to 6 childcare providers and learn about their programs and get stamped before they could even come and talk to the schools. And that was a really good thing. It worked. And then we, of course, gave prizes out. And so also that was really good that both ladies already talked about was our partnerships in the community. So LPB, which is our Louisiana Public Broadcasting, the subsidiary of PBS, it's one of our partners. They offered free LPB playtime pads. So we would give those out. The library would have our things. And we have so many branches of the library. They would have our flyers. I told you about Knock Knock. We have a partnership with Early Steps. Our mayor's office got in on it. We have billboards. We also did, the flyers. We have our social media. But we also did neighborhood walks based on the community. I know that in certain parts of Baton Rouge, all we have to do is get a snowball truck and walk down the street with a flyer, and I can get some kids to sign up because it's hot. And people are like, what's this? And we just kind of talk about the programs. But also, we do the stipends as well. So we gave partners and providers stipends based on their performance. So we had partners and providers that were getting money for that. We would also tell the providers, hey, we want you to be responsible for getting enrollment and getting out to families. So when we received ESSER funding and all the different grant money that came in as a result of COVID, our providers were able to give out scholarships. So just like I think Carmen and Amy talked about, we were paying for seats. So all the providers had to put out was free early childhood seats. And the parents came running in for it because it was the school system sending out the money that we had from ESSER, but also the state giving us funds that the child care providers use for tuition. So this helped families in COVID where money was tight. And so that was something that was great. We also, like we said, we invested a lot of money in that instruction and making sure that instruction was high quality and professionals and early childhood learning centers. And this is not just babysitting, as they said. And when those scores started to go up, and the state actually created a website where you can click on the link and see how well a school is performing, that made it like, wait a minute, I want to send my child to that school because it's excellent, or I want to send my child to that school because it's high proficient. So this was helping the schools get notoriety, but also we in turn as a district said, we're going to invest money just like we give stipends to teachers in schools. We actually gave stipends to the teachers in the child care who performed at a certain level. And so it was like all of these things together, not one thing, but all of these things together, I think is what kind of got families like, okay, wait a minute. I want to know what's going on. And then of course we're partnering with Head Start, as I said, childcare, public schools. And we just wanted to make sure that the families knew that wherever they chose to go, we are all in EBR and we are all committed to making sure that we raise the quality of education.
Thank you. Amy, anything that you would add about the way you all engage families in your particular area?
Yeah. So I would say, you have to know what's works best for the community that you're serving, particularly when you have counties and parishes that are, different. They're, you've got some more populated and some more rural, and you kind of have to know how to connect with them and what they need. So, we've done posters, flyers, social media, we've done billboards, we've done all of those things that the other ladies referenced. One of the things that was kind of a lesson learned for us is that when we were kind of first trying to get this off the ground, we planned this wonderful enrollment event to get families to come, and we had all these fun activities. And then it was in one of our smaller rural communities in Richland Parish, and only a handful, like seriously, probably less than 10 people came. Even though we had all this pushed out. What we found out were 2 things. One, the best way to get information to people is backpack flyers, but also the newspaper. And you think like who does newspapers anymore, right? But in Richland Parish and East Carroll Parish, I learned too, those are the ways that you could, that's how people got their information. So in addition to that, we also found out like after this event and we were cleaning up and leaving, and I, went around a couple blocks down to head home, and everyone was at the ball field. It was Little League time. And that's where we should have been, because that's where everybody was. But we didn't know our community as well as we needed to know them at that point. So we learned and we kind of made a different plan from there. So, I think that's one thing to really know your audience, know what their needs are, ask for their input, and really make sure you've got those relationships. I think someone said earlier about making sure you're connecting with where families already are. I think it was maybe Leah had said that. Know your target audience. We connected a lot. We do a lot of connections with libraries and also with the local health unit. Families are going there. That's where they go. Also, local grocery stores and churches are a great place to connect with folks, to get information out. If you know where people are, that's the place you really can connect with them that way. So that's kind of, it's not a one size fit all. You have to develop a strategy that's going to work best for your unique community.
Thank you all. So I'm estimating we have about 90 people, maybe a little less than that on this call, that is coming in to listen to what you all have to say. If you were telling someone new to this work, a new local early childhood lead, what is one thing you would want them to know? What's the one thing that you would want them to know about this that would help them? And we'll start with Carmen this time.
Okay, so one thing that I would say is, get your game plan first. Sit down, get some stakeholders. What do we want? What do you want to build? Who do we need at the table? So that when you go to start building your relationships, that you have talking points, that you're sure about what it is, and you can deliver what your plan is and what your vision is. And they also need to know, okay, what's in it for me? What is the benefit? Because we have all these great things, and at first when we were going out, it's like, yeah, you should do this, and then they ask the question, why? So you need to have that ready. Why is this good? Not only is it good for children, because you're trying to build that community and raise that standard and that instructional standard, but you have to keep in mind they are privately owned businesses. So how does this affect them? What are they going to have to do? Because you always have, when you're proposing something new, how does this affect me? So how does this affect them? So get your game plan, get your talking points, network with a few stakeholders to see what is our vision, before you start trying to recruit.
Lee, what is the one thing you would want them to know?
Exactly what Carmen said. And I would think getting to know how the families moved was exactly connected to how the child care providers moved. And knowing the relationships that they had, knowing that we could not go around one to get to the other, engaging all stakeholders together. And then I think we could have done a better job of having multiple events. So I talked about the early childhood extravaganza we had, which was this big thing. But we know now that there were parents that wasn't going to come to the extravaganza, but as soon as our online application opened, they can log in because they had that ability. So just really getting to know how our target audience moved and getting them on board, as Carmen said, to know what can we provide to help you? What can you do to help us? This is a true partnership, and we're going to do it together.
Amy?
I would just say kind of basically the same thing the other ladies said, but just kind of to that next level of, you need to definitely be embedded in the community and be really focused on collaboration and making sure that you're inviting everyone, giving them a seat at the table, because you don't want to leave them out. I know in the beginning, very beginning for us, there were kind of like a handful of key folks that were selected to kind of help get it off the ground. But what in that process, it kind of burned bridges and hurt feelings, and people felt they were left out when they had a lot to contribute as well. So I think you have to try to find a way to balance that, and make sure that everyone can be represented and have a seat at the table. And relationships are key. We had to do, as I said earlier, repair a lot with our family child care by not including them in the beginning. So that would be kind of my key advice: relationships, and collaboration.
Thank you, guys. One final question, then we're going to open it up and see if we have questions from our audience. And you've talked a little bit about this, a couple of you have mentioned things, but what is something that you wish you had done differently? If there's anything additionally that you would want to add. I know, Amy, you've talked about family childcare and maybe having left them out of the equation initially, but I'll start with you. Is there anything else, if you were doing it all over again, is there anything you would do differently?
I think those are the key things, really, are, making sure that everyone has the opportunity to be at the table. But also, I guess maybe not letting yourself become overwhelmed. Take it as you can and do the best you can. Do your best and let go of the rest. And just keep moving forward.
That is
Because
fantastic. I see your colleague nodding and clapping. So apparently that is a commonality maybe between you all.
Yeah.
Lee, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, a big ditto to what Amy just said. Because the work is important. All of us are on this call because we know how important the work is. And so when you're starting work and you have everyone at the table, and you know that there's this big thing that y'all are all reaching for, and sometimes a stumbling block will come in the way here and there, hurt feelings that can happen, and just trying to make sure that we are including everyone and not hurting feelings, but also building relationships, but also drinking water, like exercising and like sleeping, and not letting it get to you because you want to do so much, but you have so little time. And so that's a common feeling, that feeling of overwhelm, because I know that I have this big mission and it's super important. And how do I make sure I get it all done at the same time? That is something that goes through my head all the time, especially when we have a different population here, and it could seem even larger sometimes. So I think that's what I think, just knowing that the best that you can do is what you can do. And as long as you're doing what's right for people and children, then keep putting one step in front of the other.
Great advice. Carmen, we'll let you have the final word here on, what would you do differently, or what would you have done differently?
Yes, definitely agree with the other ladies. But one thing that I think would maybe help is when you're going out and you're starting your recruitment and meeting with those individuals, if you go with a needs assessment and you have your talking points, you tell them, you explain what the network is and what it's about, and you leave them with it, and you say, okay, if you had help, if you had assistance, what would you need help in? So that they're giving you some feedback at first. And I went to a training last week and he called it feed forward. So you could have some feed forward on what their needs would be. So you're explaining what the network is and what it does, but also giving them some ownership in it at the beginning. Like, okay, well, if they're here to help me, these are some ways that they could help me. Because we kind of, when we started, it was like, okay, this is the network, this is what it does. So we do that now. Of course, we have exit tickets at every meeting, and how can we assist you? But I think if you start there, that it would help to build a partnership even stronger.
Great advice, Carmen. Thank you all so much. I was a big fan before the call. I'm a bigger fan now. We're so excited about what the potential is here in our state. And we'll definitely be calling on you all, I'm sure, in the future. I'm going to open it up. There's a couple of ways we can do this, and I want to be respectful, and I want all of us to be respectful. If you could put it in the chat box or raise your hand. If you have questions, we have these amazing women on this call who've been doing this and have a lot of knowledge. So if you're in a community and thinking, I want to ride, I want to do this, this is a great opportunity to ask them things that you may be interested in knowing that they haven't covered. So I just want to open it up in the last, 13, 14 minutes that we have together. I see a message in the chat box, so I'll follow those. Have you engaged your private or charter schools in the work? So we'll go through each of you. Amy, we'll start with you. Just, charter and private schools, are they engaged in the work in your community?
Yeah, so our charter schools are included in our community network, those that do serve early childhood. So we have some that do also offer pre-K at their schools, and we have one that actually also offers childcare and pre-K both.
Super. Lee?
Yes, we have about 4 private schools that accept public funding that are involved in the work. We also have about 4 or 5 charter schools. So Baton Rouge has a really high population of charter schools. So one thing that we have to do here in the state is we have to have a coordinated funding request where charters have to request seats just like our child care providers. So they go through a process. Here we use an analytic rubric because there's so many requests to ensure that they have the space, they can approve the demand, they have a marketing plan. Not only that, if they were previous partners, have they done their student assessments? Have they done well in the class assessments? Are they attend meetings regularly? We look at all of these different criteria to select our partners. And so we're getting more and more, but we have been engaging, and they are also a part of our governing and advisory board.
And Carmen?
And our district doesn't have a lot of charter schools, so none of our public schools accept public funding. Private schools accept public funding, but so our new expansion has been family childcares, the in-home providers.
Super. I'm just gonna take the next one. There's an interest by Guy Finter Co-op to see the sample of the needs survey. So if my good friends at Watershed, Nasha and Lizzie, if you guys can get that from these lovely ladies, or any of them have a sample, I'll be happy to put that on the website and or send out to Guy Finter and any others who are interested in that. I have a question. Do you connect with parents who have elected to keep children at home? So Carmen, we'll start with you on that one.
Well, the only way that we do that is through our social media, and like Lee said earlier, in the doctor's offices, health units, things like that. But we haven't specifically called. We actually have waiting lists. They're calling us. So again, our word of mouth, good things happen. Other people want to join in.
Sorry, guys, I was on mute. Next question, is this just for cooperatives? I'll take that one. No, it is for any interested school, cooperative, early childhood, nonprofit agency that has an interest in children and improving the quality of early care and education in the community. So it could be a wide range. We've never done this, so we don't know. It could be a business, chamber of commerce. I've heard of a lot of different interested parties, but it is not limited, and we really want that to be really open so that we can get a nice array. And just like these ladies have talked, the difference in what they're doing may be reflected in getting this wide array or cadre of people. This is a great question from Kathleen Hell. Has business and industry supported you with funding? So Carmen, I'll start with you on that one.
We're actually in our fundraising phase. So we have a fundraising committee. We have developed a website, and we have a donate button on our website. Well, we're in that phase. We've got the account, we've got to put the link on there to do it, but I have 2 potential donors. And so what we're doing is doing an awareness campaign. We've got a fundraising card that, if people are interested, we say sponsor a child. So we've got seat sponsorships. But that is exactly where we are right now. So we're this close to having our first donors. But we're speaking to chambers of commerce. I'm speaking to the parish council in October, just to get the word out, because people are not aware of all the great things that happen in early childhood education. I mean, we know because we live in that world, but it's amazing when you go out into the business world, they say, okay, what do you do? And what is that? And so when we're talking about it, I mean, our governing board has people in the economic world. We've got a judge on our board of directors. So we've got people from all walks of life on our governing board, and they are our people who go out and make our connections with us. So we are in that infancy to where hopefully we're exploding pretty quickly. But yes, so they are taking an interest, and we're getting more calls every day. So hopefully by the end of September, well, my goal is by September 20th to have our first donation.
And I see that Nasha's put something in the comments. I'm going to, if Lee and Amy have anything to add on that, I want to get everybody's question, because I see another really good question in the chat box. So if you guys can respond to that question about business funding, that would be fantastic. I see a hand up. I'm going to go to the Arkansas River Education Service Cooperative and then try to get to these other questions in the chat box.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you want us to ask what the question?
Yes, ma'am. Hey, Kathy.
How are you? So I believe Dr. Lee mentioned coaches. And so anytime we take on a new and important initiative, we always think about human capital. So when you first started, Dr. Lee and others from Louisiana, did you start with one person and then add some along the way? Just take us through that year one to now journey with human capital quickly.
Yes, absolutely. So we started off with me as project manager and one teacher coach when we had 39. So I had half of the sites as the coach and project manager, and then we had one teacher coach with half of the sites. But that was our pilot year, and we didn't know if it was going to roll over. So we then, one of our coach left and went somewhere else, but then we found out the money was going to be renewed. So we hired another coach. Then we got additional grant funding and we hired another one. And so now we're up to about 8 coaches. But what we do is really use the different grant funding available to ensure that we can. Our school district also helps to supplement coaches' salaries and benefits as well.
Amy, Carmen, anything that you would add to that?
Yeah, we have the same here. Our district doesn't give any funds to support coaches, but we started with one coach, and exactly what she said, we braid our funding, and we're up to 4 coaches. And we have a Ready Start specialist, because we are a Ready Start network. And we have, I'm calling her the seat coordinator, because we have the B3 seats and LA4 seats. There's so many moving parts, but we also were able to hire through a partnership with our special education department. We braid funds for an early childhood behavior interventionist. And so she has been essential in the work that we're doing. And I saw somebody had put a question in about mental health, and she is phenomenal in that area as well.
Amy, anything you would add to that?
Yeah, so we started really with just one person that was kind of over the community network lead agency role, and that was, in 2014. And we now have a team of about 8 people who work across the 5 parishes, with, of course, me leading the team, and then having a coach, and then also other specialists that do other pieces of the work that you guys probably aren't going to be doing quite yet. But like Leah was saying, like with Birth to 3 Seats, and through some of our other work that we do in the community.
Thanks, Amy. I'm going to go to Kelly Parsons' question, because it's a great question. For your providers to be included in meetings, how are you holding those? The issue being subs in classrooms, how do you navigate that whole situation with especially small centers or folks that may have a more difficult time? So Carmen, we'll start with you.
Well, we have had them establish like education support specialists is what we call them. If they have a lead teacher in their center that we pay a stipend for, so that will free up a director to come, but also sometimes, not all the time, because we want them in person, because those in-person interactions are always the best, but sometimes we do a Zoom link so that they can come, but it's difficult for them to, be focused on that. We have not yet, but we have toyed with the idea of paying them a stipend to come, especially the people that, because the rural areas in the northern end of the parish, they have to travel, because we hold our meetings in Hammond, which is the mostly populated area. So some have to travel about 35 minutes to get here. So that's a challenge for some of them. So the Zoom meetings help for sometimes for those who can't attend.
Yeah. And so for us being more of a rural parish, rural area, we do regional meetings that are on Zoom, and those happen every month. But then we also do quarterly in-person meetings at the parish level, so that we make sure that we're sitting at the table with folks. We also, kind of survey times that are best for them. Instead of just us designating the time, we ask them what time's best for you. And a lot of times we'll meet like at the local library, because it's a neutral location. And so that's kind of how we go about, making sure that we're scheduling meetings that work for them, and making sure that we get that face-to-face time. And of course, that parish level meeting is more specific just to their parish and what's happening in their parish, and the decision making and planning that needs to occur there, where the regional meeting is more generalized across the parishes. Because the longest, I think our longest distance driving wise for East Carroll to our primary, where our main location is in Monroe, is about an hour and 20 minutes drive. So it's very important that we go to them and not expect them to come to us.
I just wanted to jump in real quick because we have a unique situation as well with our urban area. We started off with all in person, and we had some of the larger childcare centers to sponsor space, and they say y'all can meet in our, it's a lot of churches, so y'all can meet in our sanctuary, y'all can meet in our recreation room. We went to the library. We have what's called the Professional Development Center for EBR schools. So that's a big building, but we wanted to go in north, south, east, west. So we have meetings everywhere. When COVID happened, it became mostly all virtual. But we did survey for times, and 12 o'clock has been the favorite time since 2014 because it's nap time. But we also have what's called nap time nuggets. So that's also when we push in virtually and do our PD during the nap time, so that teachers can also log in, because they can be in their classroom, but also have some professional development.
That is fantastic. I know we're getting close to the 3 o'clock hour game, but we'll keep going for another second. Arkansas Public School Resource Center, this is a pilot year. We are looking to fund anywhere between 4 to possibly 10 to start with. I think, what we see in the future is, anywhere from 30 to 50 statewide, because we do think some areas may do regional, like Amy described hers, that are more rural in population. But we are in some uncharted territory, but that's sort of what we expect and what we're planning for. I think someone had asked about mental health, and someone talked about that. Amy, if you or Lee have any other comments about mental health and services that you're providing, please feel free, to add anything. Just want to make sure we take care of everyone's questions. And I think my good friend Nasha is responding to some, so thank you. And she's talking about the work that they're doing there. So you don't have to be a 501c3, but many are, because some are school systems and some are nonprofits. So there's a variety. Again, we're trying to be flexible and open here. We're not trying to blockade anybody from participating. So we're taking applications. If everyone can remember, those are due September 29th. We expect to make announcements October 18th. And then we will be doing kickoff and training. And I'm sure we're going to see these ladies hopefully some more as we move forward, because they have a lot of incredible knowledge and information that I know they can share, and sound very passionate about sharing that as well. So Thank you all from Arkansans. We appreciate you all so much for giving up your time for the important work that you're doing on behalf of young children in your respective state, and just look forward to continuing to work. Thanks to Nasha and Lizzie quietly behind the scenes here, helping coordinate this and helping lead us here in Arkansas. I know everyone who's on here has the information. If you need anything else, Paige Cox is our designated person to reach out to, but we look forward to seeing the applications that come in and providing our colleagues in Louisiana a report at some point about what we're doing here as well. So thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day and rest of the week.